Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Lights Camera Discussion Podcast. Again, as always, I am joined here by the Kylo Ren and Ray of the Lights Camera Discussion Podcast, Collie and Todd. Guys, how are we doing?
What one am I and what one's Todd?
That's our first question.
To be
good morning.
fair, I think you're the angry one, Collie, so you must be Kylo Ren.
I don't know, Ray gets pretty angry. Spoiler alert.
She's got that within her.
And Todd
But,
does
you
have
know.
that nice hair, so...
And, Palpatine's pretty
So,
angry. Ray
yeah.
Palpatine. Oh, wait,
Could I
it's
be
Skywalker.
Palpatine?
Sorry, she changes her mind and it's Skywalker. So. Thank
I'll-
fuck we're not doing that film, by the way.
Yes. Spoiler for our next episode. Well,
J.J. Abrams. Oh, no.
Oh me. Enough of the shenanigans. We are back here today, obviously, to talk about our next director that Todd chose, which was Rian Johnson. And just to obviously give you guys a bit of a breakdown again, we'll be doing two parts to this one. So we will be keeping this as tight as possible. I'm going to try and keep a tight ship, no a shite tip, because we did run over a little bit last time with Steve McQueen. So if you see me doing hand signals and stuff like that, then you know what I mean. But Todd, how about you take us away on Mr. Rian Johnson?
absolutely. So, like Massey said, Ryan was my pick. Ryan Johnson is an American writer and director of film, TV, and music videos. As well as being held in high regard for his filmography, Johnson has received plaudits for his directorial work on TV masterpiece Breaking Bad. Johnson is currently working on the third film in the Knives Out franchise, Wake Up Dead Man, and has been handed the reins to a new Star Wars trilogy, which I think we'll all be very excited about. Is it what's that face? That's a fact.
It's not been confirmed that he's still
Oh, is
doing
it not?
to be fair, no.
Oh,
I believe they
actually-
offered it. They offered it during Last Jedi, and then that came out, and it was to mixed reviews. So I don't know if he's still doing it or not.
he's still credited on IMDb as like it's still up there. So
Anyone can edit IMDb, or is that more controlled than Wikipedia?
It's controlled, yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
more
like
controlled.
the movie industry can edit it, agents
Okay.
and stuff. Oh, sorry.
Could possibly have been handed the reins to a new Star Wars trilogy.
You're not wrong in saying that he was, but when I
Yeah.
was reading up on it, I think it's kind of up in the air. Still
Because of some crybaby Star Wars fans. Let's get
get
that
there.
over.
We'll get there.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get going then. Let's get started. So, Todd, the first movie that we're going to be chatting about today.
So our first film is Brick, and Brick is a 2005 thriller, which was Rian Johnson's debut film. Brick is a neo-noir style mystery, which tells the story of Brendan Fry, a high school student who takes it upon himself to investigate his ex-girlfriend's murder.
Ooh, interesting. Collie, first thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So it wasn't a first watch for me. I had watched it, I don't know, a couple of years ago when Skip to the End did it as a rewatch. It was a Gemma recommendation, I think. I really like this film. It's kind of, you can tell that it's early. Some of the editing's a bit choppy and stuff, but really enjoyed the dialogue. Really enjoyed some of the performances as well. So yeah, great pick so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's not a film I'd ever seen before. I'd heard about it, and I thought it was something completely different than what it was. So it was actually quite interesting to kind of watch what we were given. We'll kind of get into it in more points and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a really good debut film. I thought it was interesting. It was a different kind of like melding of genres, which I quite appreciated. So yeah, Todd.
Yeah, so this was one of the main reasons I chose Rian Johnson, other than these other films. Like, I'd never seen this before. I've had it on DVD. I think I got it in like a pound shop or whatever quite a while ago and just never watched it. So it was one of the main reasons. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it more than I would. And I think for a debut, I think it says a lot about who he is and what he's interested in, and the style, and that's been refined down to a point in his later career. But yeah, really enjoyed it, and it's cool to see a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt as well. I thought that was. I know we'll obviously get onto his performance, but it was just cool to see him in like such a low-budget start-out film.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just jump straight into his performance. So he's obviously the main character, the kind of the guy that we follow this this mystery through the eyes of. How do you think he did? Was there anything that stood out for yourself, Collie, and JGL's performance?
So I think like this wouldn't have been his earliest performance. I think what I would have seen is like 10 Things I Hate About You. That was like maybe 5-6 years before this. But this was his chance to like lead a film and deliver like really quick, snappy dialogue. You'll probably hear me say that quite a few times in reviewing Rian Johnson's films. Like one of the quotes that I noted was when after he hits Dode, and then the rest of the guys like stand up to him a little bit. He's like, "Throw one at me if you want." Hashhead, I got all 5 senses and I slept last night. That puts me 6 up on the lot of you. And that just made me burst out laughing because he's just not a very imposing looking guy. Yet in this film, he seems to just beat up everybody, which is quite funny. And I love his little quirk of putting his glasses in like the little pop up case every time he knows he's a way to get hit or that. So I thought he was great. I thought he was charming. His interactions with everybody were really well delivered. I thought really good back and forth, and some of the reviews I was reading were like, "Oh, he doesn't really carry the film very well," but I thought he did excellently. In kind of everything's around him, like no real parts of the film are without him being there. So yeah, no, I thought he was great.
Absolutely, yeah, I completely agree. I think certainly for me when I first started watching it and not expecting what it was, the way he sort of delivered the sort of like film noir dialogue and stuff, I thought he did really well with it, and it kept engaging. It's one of those things that you could easily get lost with it, I think, at points. And I think maybe I did, not necessarily to do with him though, but I think that he kept everything kind of together, which I really appreciated. And I thought it was a really good performance. Todd, thoughts on GGL?
Yeah, I had the I've got all 5 senses quote written down because it just like it is the quote of the film, I think, because that's where he stands up and like is almost countered. But I think it's easy for him to fall into parody, and I don't know whether that's obviously like his performance or Rian Johnson's direction, or a lovely mix of both. But like the conversations he has with the principal, in the office, where it's almost like the cop and the captain,
Yeah.
like the badge and the gun type thing. You can go out on your own and do what you need to, but you like not with my say so type thing. Their interactions were brilliant, but like I say, he was one step away from having a really thin cigarette and like, do you know what I mean? Like standing in the dark and just seeing the lit end of the cigarette. Yeah, I thought he was really good. I thought like a mature performance from him. And I think the one thing I didn't see was how old he was when he was in the, but obviously he's playing a high schooler, and I think to get that sort of level of not being cheesy high school, but not being serious neo-noir detective either, and trying to get that balance worked really well. I thought, yeah, he was excellent.
Brilliant.
He would
Good
have been
stuff.
about 23, 24, I think.
20,
Yeah. Similar to, I think, like the Cara and a few of the other actors and actresses I looked up were around the same age.
Similar,
I,
yeah.
I think that works though, doesn't it? Because it's like, okay, they're high schoolers, and like sometimes when older folk are playing high schoolers, that's sort of the criticism that comes with it. But I think it worked
Spider-Man.
well. Sorry?
Like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. 50-year-old Spider-Man.
Like Flash is about 45 years old or something like that. Yeah.
But like I think it works in this film because it's like
totally.
kind of has that that neo-noir sort of like stylings to it. And I think if you had kids doing that, then it maybe would be a bit more jarring than it actually is. So yeah, no, I completely agree.
I just want to comment more on that. You've said noir a few times, and I took down a note of it because I was like, what kind of genre is this? So while the film is classified as a film noir, Johnson claims that no references were made to film noir during production, so as to focus the production away from reproducing a genre piece. So even though it like maybe lends towards that, and that's not maybe what they were deliberately going out to. Because I noted down, like, I questioned what genre it was before I looked it up, and I was like, it's like Shakespearean noir or something with some of the dialogue and stuff that they're delivering with the kind of fancy words and all that kind of stuff. And there's a film later on that he just comes out with weird ways to say things in the script.
Absolutely.
I think it hits, like you say, it's interesting that he's not gone for that because it hits so many of the tropes. Like it's Cara, isn't it? The who's like changing a costume every time you see her. Like that feels very much like the speakeasy. That every time he goes to speak to her, I know it's the theater, but he's jumping into the speakeasy, and like you have those tropes, those conventions right the way through.
And then even like the shots of the body and stuff, and like with the hand in the water, and there's a the big tunnel and stuff, and when he's like crouching over it, and his internal monologues and stuff, it is very, very film noir. So that is interesting to hear that they didn't ever kind of consciously go down that route.
It reminded me of Sin City quite a lot.
Yeah,
with that kind of
exactly.
stuff. Yeah. And if it had been shot in black and white, similar to like Memento or something, it would have been just spot on for it. But just commenting on that, I thought this was like a much funnier film than I remembered it being. Like when he fights with Brad in the car park, and just as he's walking away, Lassie's like, "Hey, is there a fight?" Just as he's walking away, he's like, "Yeah." I just found some of it quite funny, and like I just found the pin hilarious with his cape and his big shoe, and
in his
like
mum's
that.
basement.
Yeah, I just thought that was hilarious. Like he's in like the dark, and he turns it on. He's at his desk. And he's got like a big bird or eagle statue beside him, and he just started. I just thought it was like either intentionally funny or just like maybe I was just laughing at it a bit too much. But when I rewatched it yesterday, I was just giggling away at some of it because it's just over the top and silly, and a lot of that comes down to the language. Even though like it's a really bleak film, its opening is about like a dead like teenager. I found quite a lot of it funny. Not that bit particularly, but like just some of the interactions and the fighting and that. But I don't think that's what you intended it to be, but it kind of just is.
I think it probably was more meant to be like tongue in cheek, but I think you're right. It comes out more.
They're outwardly funny, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like even Tug, just like Tug was. I'm skipping ahead, maybe talking about each character and stuff, but Tug's just like in a wife beater and a beanie, and he's just got this big muscle car. Interesting, more so for Todd than you, Massey, because I don't think you'll have played it. But when I was looking up what Noah Fleiss, the guy who plays Tug, what else he's been in, he plays Chris in Until Dawn. Todd, so he did the motion capture. Okay. It's the guy with the glasses and stuff. I was like, "Who's Chris?" But it's the guy with the glasses and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool because that's being remade this year, re-released or whatever. It has been already. So it's been made into a movie, but they released like a PS5 edition recently.
It's been it's out now. Yeah, it's been been released. Yeah.
I'll have to replay it because I enjoyed that because I was like I think I was like running out of like what to play that day on stream, and somebody's like, "I'll play this," so I ended up playing it like all in that one stream. I think. Great game. Sorry.
Great game.
And if
we'll leave that for the gaming podcast.
Well, yeah. But a little shout out to Collective Unit on Twitch if you're not already
streamed
following.
Once in the last 8 weeks or something like that.
It's more than me and Todd. So, any other characters that jumped out or performances? Also, we touched on a couple of them, but was there any kind of big ones for you guys?
So I didn't really like Nora Zetner as Laura. I didn't really buy her, like, not that I could tell the twist, because again, it's one of those ones that when you're rewatching a film that you've not watched in 5-6 years, you can remember bits and pieces of it, and I couldn't remember the twist or the multiple twists, I guess. But I just didn't really buy her as like being this like sinister person that would like manipulate guys and girls to like her will. And like the delivery of the line right at the end about like, oh, she was 3 months pregnant and that means that you were the dad. I just didn't. It wasn't the big, oh my God, shocking moment that I think the film wanted it to be. And even the lassie who plays Emily in the few scenes that she's in, I don't really like her as an actress. She's is it Claire in Lost? She's the pregnant lassie in Lost, and I fucking hated her when she was in that. I just found her annoying and not very good. Like I thought she was like beneath the quality of Lost, and I think she's beneath the quality of this, which is saying something in terms of not that the film's not good, but like the quality of it is low. It feels like a kind of college film, but a bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. She's one of those actresses that like I don't want to seem like cruel or anything, but I feel like she punches above her weight. Like she shouldn't be in like things like this for me. And like you say, Lost as well. She's one like we watched the first season of Lost not too long ago, and she was definitely one of the like low points of it for me.
She just gets shrill and stuff like that. Like it's just not good.
Yeah,
for me.
You can tell she's acting, if that makes sense. Like So yeah, I totally agree. And for her to be the main sort of catalyst around the whole plot and stuff, you know, like the it's almost like you're actually happy that she's dead.
Well, no, I think it's kind of, it benefits her in a way that because she's in it so little, she's the central figure, but there's only a handful of scenes that she's actually acting in, which is a blessing. But yeah, Todd, do you got anyone that you want to mention? I've got one or two more, but you can go ahead.
Noah Segan, for me, he's not. I don't really see him in a lot else other than, or I don't clock him, and I might now more like I've watched the Rian Johnson films. I know obviously he has a bit part in one further on. He has, but he's like, I don't know. I believed him, and I enjoyed that sort of like almost down and out losery type character that he plays. Yeah, he was really good, particularly in the scene in the tunnel. The standoff towards the end, I thought he was particularly effective. Yeah, and I really like I keep wanting to call him the captain, but he's not. He's the principal or the vice principal. Sorry, he's the
Shaft.
vice principal.
You mean Shaft? It's the guy who played Shaft.
Is it actually
Oh,
Shaft?
is it?
Yeah.
Richard Roundtree.
Yeah.
Is that
Shaft.
it? Yeah. Again, I think.
Sorry.
No, I thought he was good, and like you said, the interactions between like the captain and the kind of sergeant, like Lethal Weapon kind of dialogue, I thought that's spot on. That's a great comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I slagged him off because he made me laugh, I thought Lucas Haas's The Pen was good.
Yeah,
I thought like what he was asked to do, he delivered really, really well. But it is the nonsense of like his mum offering like breakfast to Brendan and stuff. He's like, okay, bye, mum, and stuff. And Tug's just standing in the background like that, like his mum like being
she's
all
a
nice.
proper mum as well, isn't
She's
she?
like, I'll go to
She's
the other room. I'll go to the other room.
Yeah, just offering him like every drink in the house type. But I think the best bit about that is like you forget that the high school, I forget for a bit that the high schoolers see like you're really embroiled in this like murder mystery and this thriller, and then like you're taken right out of it. And like you say, he plays it perfectly. Yeah,
absolutely. Quick question: the Brain. Is he literally like? I know he's nicknamed the Brain, but like he doesn't really interact with anyone else. So like I was kind of like, is he the sort of internal
there's a
kind
theory
of?
that he's in his head, and Rian Johnson, I think, when he read on, I don't know if it was the Reddit or whatever, he commented being like, that's the most interesting post on this thread or something like that. He didn't confirm or deny it, but he said that was his favorite post that somebody had made about the film. So I thought that on my first rewatch of this, and then when I was rewatching it again yesterday just to make sure it was fresh in my head, the scene at the end when he's on the field and it's just Brendan's head, it looks as if, unless I didn't clock it, like Brain walks out of, like he must, if he's real, he's walked up behind Brendan and then walked to the side of his head. But the way that the film looks, like if I'm Brendan, he's looking at that, Brain just appears at the side of the screen like that, and then it goes back to Laura walking away, and then back to Brendan, and then Brain starts walking away like back towards his head, and then I think it cuts back to Laura, and then it cuts back to Brendan, and Brendan turns around and starts walking away, and you don't see Brain. But whether that's just because he's blocked by Brendan or not, I thought that was quite not on, but yeah, I guess on the nose potential showing of he's only in his head because nobody else interacts with him or anything like that.
Yeah.
The only one that made me question was that he phones Brendan at some point, but then I was just like, Brendan could just be making that up as well.
Yeah. Just thought it was an interesting sort of thing because
I thought it's a good theory.
Yeah. Okay, I think we kind of spoke about cast. We're doing all right for time, actually. Anything that kind of stood out cinematography wise, editing wise? I know it's obviously quite an interesting film in that regard, certainly for a sort of debut. But Collie, was there anything that stood out for you?
So there's one that's maybe not like a good editing bit, but it's when Brendan's Laura's driven him somewhere at some point in the film, and he's lying like towards the camera on his stomach, and he's like coughing and hawking up and stuff, and they're having a conversation. But he's like shouting and screaming. I can't remember. Is it when he finds out she's pregnant? I think it is. But if you watch Laura during it, like there's so obvious cuts there. She's like here one moment, and then she's like here, and then she's like here. It's back and forth and back and forth, and I just couldn't take my eyes off it. One shot that I thought was amazing though, that I really, really enjoyed, was the one when Dode gets shot by Tug. And it just cuts to, obviously, like he pushes him down or whatever, and it just cuts to like you're in the tunnel looking out as he shoots him. So I thought like the special effects were good, and then just like the birds flying away, I just thought it was a really like good looking shot. A lot of the film I would probably say like is decently edited, like fine enough, but I think throughout you can tell that it's an early / debut film. It reminded me of Memento in a lot of ways, not just so much as like, oh, there's a dead body and it's a murder mystery, but it just made me feel like early Nolan in that regard. Obviously, there's different levels to those things, but that's just what it made me think of.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It was like it was like a high school version of Memento, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I really liked a lot of the cinematography when it come to like the shots with the tunnel, like you said, looking at it, but even like when he's outside it, kind of crouched over her body and stuff, and there's just like looming darkness behind him. It's the tunnel. I thought like again the symbolism with that was really interesting, and the fact that there was like someone from the tunnel had seen or like it kind of played a bit of a part in the story in terms of who was getting blamed or at least some of the theories that were coming around with it. I thought that was it was really interesting. The soundtrack as well I thought was quite interesting. It was sort of like discordant jazz and stuff at points, and something that I really picked up on that I thought was super interesting. Was it? I do apologize. Was it done by Johnson's cousin as well? Because I know he does all of them, doesn't he? Yeah,
his majority of them, except Star Wars, I want to say.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was interesting from that point as well. Yeah. Todd, anything?
The beach scene I thought was really sort of like necessary. Where he sat with the pin and says like, "Do you read Tolkien, the Hobbit books?" And he's like, he describes things really well, I think, is the phrase that he uses, and it's just like it's quite a nice sort of. It's a scene that's needed in the film to sort of bring it back down and sort of settle it down. But I just think it's shot beautifully as well. It's shot just at the right time. It's that sort of sunset. The other thing was the chase. Where you hear the feet, and I was just like, that is horrendous. Who has decided on that? And then obviously it makes sense as to why the feet are so prevalent, because then he takes his shoes off so that his footsteps can't be heard. When he hits the metal post in his head,
so
and it sounds like a fucking church bell. I lost it, and I don't know. Like, it feels like that was intentionally funny. It feels like that had to have been there on purpose. It was like a bloody Tom and Jerry cartoon. And I rewatched it, and I think I enjoyed. I didn't. I appreciated the footsteps more, because that's like, again, a proper debut film thing of being like, this is so clever. And I imagine that in his sort of like, as he's starting out, Rian Johnson's gone, I've done something here. This is fucking brilliant. Like, and people are gonna love it.
It reminds me of Monty Python with the coconuts. That's what it was reminding me of, with the horses and the coconuts.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so elaborate. Like, it was brilliant. Yeah. So they were my main. Oh, and there was a scene, complete darkness, and it just again fits the sort of noir thriller sort of thing, where the light's coming from behind the fan as the fan's moving. It's like that stark white light on the black that almost made it look black and white. That was really cool as well. I thought it was a really when he's in the car as well. Sorry, that's the other one. Quite near the end, there's a shot where it's sort of driving. We talked about Widows and how it could have been shot from. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring.
Don't worry, it'll be getting mentioned later on again.
Roller clip. Yeah, like how you shoot people who are driving or in a car. And I think towards the end, there's just a shot of Joseph Gordon-Levitt from the side, like a side profile, and it's like it's following the car around, and as he gets out, and I just thought that was again just really well shot and really thoughtfully shot, I think.
Good stuff. Any final bits and pieces you want to go over? Happy enough with what we've covered?
Yeah, I'm good. Yep.
Yeah.
Happy with that.
Excellent. Good stuff. Right. Okay. Well, as always, we go into our scores. So, Collie, what did you give Brick?
I gave it 4 out of 5.
Todd?
4 out of 5 as well.
Cool. I was 3.5. I just want to be different, okay? Yeah, 3.5. But I mean, I do think it's one of those that, again, I could rewatch and easily give a 4. And I like this because we chat about things and it makes me remember and feel better.
It happens to me like almost every episode. Either like whatever I've settled on, it'll either be like less than I scored it or more.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, look, let us move on to the next film from Rian Johnson. Todd, take us away.
So the next film is The Brothers Bloom, which is a 2009 comedy, drama, adventure. I know I'm using the word loosely. That centers around two brothers who've made a life as con men, scamming people with ever more elaborate cons. When Bloom and Stephen pull off one last job, Bloom falls for their mark and must decide whether he's in it for the con or a life more settled.
Who wants to start?
I think Todd should start.
Yeah, Todd, go for it.
This, I wasn't aware that this existed. This is like when I know about Rian Johnson,
Yeah,
I knew about Brick.
like, I've made the wrong choice. I've made the wrong choice. Yeah.
Do you know what, as well? I was so hopeful when I saw that it was like, obviously, like Rachel Weisz, who's like incredible in everything she's in. Adrian Brody, like Mark Ruffalo, everything I've seen her in. I'd like, yeah, yeah, and it was a mess. It was just an absolute mess, and I didn't read any reviews beforehand, and I'll come to some of them, but I don't understand how this is so well regarded. I just feel like people are saying it to be nice or because of the cast. I don't know. Anyway, Massey, how about you? How do you feel about it?
I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. I'm the same as you. I thought it was super messy. I'd only ever heard about this film because there was a TikTok I saw where it was like an actors and actors, and it was Adrian Brody and Tilda Swinton. And Adrian Brody was talking about how he must have been. It's so weird, but he's like, I must have been at your house. I was in Scotland. And she was like, no, you've not been at my house. And he's like, I was filming Brothers of Bloom with Robbie Coltrane, and we went to Scotland. We definitely went to your house. And she's like, no, you weren't. It's just the weirdest thing ever. But that's the only time I'd ever heard about this film. And you're like you. I was like, sick. Mark Ruffalo, Adrian Brody, Rachel Weisz. And I was like, yeah, this, it's going to be very prestige and all that sort of thing, like con men and sleight of hand and stuff. But it felt pretentious to me. And it felt like it was really kind of trying to be something that it just clearly wasn't. And yeah, I was checked out 15-20 minutes in, and it didn't ever put me back in. So yeah, I loved it. 5 stars. Collie.
So the first note that I've got on this is Crashing a Lamborghini, worst film ever. But then quickly after that, I wrote, this movie is beneath Rian Johnson. I just feel like this was a first time watch for me. I'd never seen it before. I'd never heard of it before. We decided to do Rian Johnson on the podcast. So I went in similar to you, like, cast looks good, like described as a caper comedy. I don't mind them. And the first kind of film that I think of when I'm thinking of like a caper comedy is, remember Rat Race from like the early 2000s, had like Rowan Atkinson and that in it.
Yep.
I meant to go back and watch that actually to compare it, but this film put me off. And I just feel like I do also have noted, to be fair, that you can definitely see early inklings of like the snappy, like funny Knives Out type dialogue between people and stuff, and the kind of trickery of show don't tell, Todd's favorite like thing of just like, because it's all about comment and stuff like that. So you want it to be like, oh, we'll show you one thing, but in actual fact it was this. And the kind of callbacks, I thought some of it was smart and some of it was very pretentious. Like you say, some good performances. Robbie Coltrane was it was good to see him again. But yeah, it wasn't as like half as good as I expected it to be, but I don't think it was like terrible either. But when you see like this average is 3.4 out of 5,
Crazy
on Letterboxd, which I find absolutely insane. The only people that I've got like activity from friends on this is used to, which we won't say the star ratings yet, but a 1.5, and then somebody gave it 5 stars. So I don't know what they're on, but like that's the range that we're talking about there. So that's maybe why the average is 3.4, because it's either 5 stars for people or, a couple of stars for people. So yeah, not great. Definitely weaker than Brick. That kind of goes without saying. But flashes of good stuff, flashes of very, very bad stuff.
Fair enough. I mean, we all kind of touched on the cast and how we were excited with seeing who was in it, but how about we kind of talk about the main three then? So Adrian Brody and Mark Ruffalo as their brothers Bloom, and then Rachel Weisz as the what's the word? Enigmatic? No. The
eccentric.
sort of eccentric. There we go. The eccentric kind of rich lady. Collie, what were your thoughts on their performances?
I thought Mark Ruffalo was great. I thought he was really good. It kind of like he's just charming and funny and quite believable as a guy. You can kind of see him as this older brother who's just wanting to like encourage his younger sibling to do this, do that, try this con and stuff. I just really enjoyed it. It's obviously in his like career more recently, a lot of his roles have been a bit more dramatic, stuff like Dark Water and that. And he's mainly known for the Avengers kind of Marvel films, but stuff like Spotlight and that is what I think of him really nowadays. So it was good to see him having a bit of fun. I thought he was fine in it. Rachel Weisz was all right in it. She's definitely been better in other stuff. I thought she was just she almost played the same character that she does in quite a few things. I think like it reminded me a little bit of her character in The Mummy and stuff. Is just this like quite smart person, but like a bit ditzy in that at times.
No common sense kind of thing.
Yeah, and Adrian Brody, just I can take him or leave him, to be honest. I don't rate much of his performances. Certainly since like The Pianist and that. Like you look at his filmography, and it's a lot of nothing, really. To be honest, I've tried to quickly glance through, and like there's obviously a few things with Wes Anderson and that in the mix that he's done since, but apart from that, and Predators that we talked about before we started, he's not really done much good films. So yeah, I could take him or leave him, to be honest. In this, he was just there for me, to be honest. And interestingly, I don't know if you read this or noted this, but they actually had Ruffalo cast as Brody's character, but they ended up swapping them around, which I think worked for the best. Because, like I was saying about Ruffalo, I think he does lend better to the older sibling, but I wouldn't have cast Adrian Brody as the kind of character that you want people to get on side with and kind of empathize with and get on board with. I just don't find him a very charming guy. Obviously, he cast him later on, but somebody like Daniel Craig in the mid 2000s maybe would have been a good casting choice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would say as well, like, I don't know how you guys felt about this, but when we saw the kids, like, so from like in the past, like, it felt like they were the other way around. Like, it like the kid from Wild Things felt more like Brody to me, like Adrian Brody to me, and they were kind of like this the other way around. But I don't know if they changed them after they'd done that or what, but yeah, I felt that from there. But I agree with yourself. Like with Adrian Brody, I can like he'll do like a fantastic performance in like an Oscar nominated role or whatever in a picture, and then just like fade off and do something like weird and under the radar and not like anything sort of world beating. Like he was in a season of Peaky Blinders and things, and it was such a weird kind of like turn of things, and he tried doing an Italian accent and that, and it was terrible. But his little emo fringe and stuff as well in this film just annoyed me. But and yeah, I agree. I think Mark Ruffalo was definitely out of all three of them probably the more stronger as the kind of older guy. But yeah, it didn't feel like there was much chemistry between the three for me anyway. And that, you know, when your main three don't feel like they have chemistry, then you're kind of on a bit of a loser there, aren't you? So yeah, is what it is. Todd, thoughts on the three?
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo was decent, I think, but again, I feel like he plays that similar sort of like you say about Rachel Weisz. I think they playing to their strengths, but similar things that they've done before. Like you've got the charm from Mark Ruffalo, you've got the sort of ditzy at times, but intelligent, and ditzy isn't the word. Eccentric's definitely the word. Sorry, but like from Rachel Weisz, like you've got those. Adrian Brody bored me to tears. Like somebody. This is what
bored the tits off me, Todd. I know that's what you were gonna say.
I was tempted. He did bore the tits off me. He bored me to tears. Everything. He played it too straight. At least the other two were having a bit of fun with it. Like it was a little bit over the top, a little bit silly. Whereas like he was just too straight with it. And I wrote down just after the controversy of using AI and The Brutalist to help with his Hungarian accent, that maybe he actually might need it, because he needed AI to fix that shit British accent that he did in that first scene that made me want to claw my ears off. Like it was so shit. And I get, obviously, at first I was like, oh, well, they're doing a con, so like maybe it's just like ridiculous and over the top. But if they're trying to con somebody out of millions of dollars or whatever, and you're putting on a British accent, you want it to be believable. That pissed me off. I didn't think there was any chemistry between any of them. And there was a part of me that was like, I wish, because I really enjoyed the opening. I felt the opening was very sort of stylized, and it worked really well. I'd rather have watched like them grown up. That's what I'd have rather have seen, is like how they became what they are. Yeah, and I think that's part of what killed me. It could have been a mess, but it could have been an enjoyable mess. But because there was no chemistry between the main three, in any way, shape, or form, whether it was the romantic from Rachel Weisz to Adrian Brody, or whether it was from like a brotherly thing from the two brothers, I just didn't get any of it. So it didn't really work performances wise. But there was one performance that stood out, which I'm sure we'll move on to.
Take it away, Todd, when you go.
I loved Robbie Coltrane as the Belgian.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic. It just, from the second he stepped on, and again had that sort of mystery coming out the darkness, and do you know the brothers Bloom? He was having a lot of fun with it, and he was on the screen for what, 10 minutes maybe max.
Go do the accent, please.
What?
Go do the accent.
You said don't do the accent.
No, go do it.
I definitely. No, I won't. I won't.
This is a request. Todd, please do the accent of the Belgian.
No, I am not getting cancelled over a Belgian accent. Collie, what did you think of Robbie Coltrane?
I thought he was great. I thought he was funny. Like, just it kind of reminded me of his role that he had in a couple of the James Bond films when he was playing a Russian guy. Just this completely outrageous accent. His moustache was funny as fuck. He's just ace. I love Robbie Coltrane, and he's very missed in roles like this for sure. Yeah, definitely a standout. One of very few standouts in this film.
100%. The boy, absolute boy. And Agent Brody went to his house, apparently.
Yeah.
And Tilda Swinton's.
Tilda Swinton's house, yeah. Everyone in Scotland lives in the same house, apparently.
Okay, I mean, anything else actually, one thing I just want to say about is and someone will obviously talk about it in pretty much every film, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt's cameo, like, that was great. He just literally scans past it, but that's it. Like, I thought it was brilliant.
And Noah Sagan again in this.
Yeah. Yep.
Todd said, sorry, just to go back to what Todd said during the break. Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
Sagan.
Todd was like, he's got like one like bit part role in another film. I'm like, he's in every single film. He's in every single film that we've watched.
Yeah,
no, I thought that was good. I thought Rinko Kikuchi as Bang Bang. I thought she was fine. It felt a bit not offensive. Not that I can get offended by it, but it felt a bit like of a rip off of Kato-esque stuff. With Pink Panther and all that kind of back in the day, and there's just this mute psychic kind of person, so it was bordering on cliche, I guess, with that, but quite a lot of this was cliche.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything else that stood out for you guys? Anything?
Just move on.
No, I would say as well, like, and I think I've said to you guys how I feel about Wes Anderson. A lot of this, or parts of it, felt like Wes Anderson, so that just annoyed me straight away. Like,
yeah, well, you annoy me, so there we go.
I don't blame you, teacher. Okay, look. On to our reviews, sorry, our ratings. Apologies, we just had a review, haven't we? Ratings then. So, Collie, what did you give it out of 5?
I give it 2.5. So it's a star for Ruffalo, a star for Coltrane, and half a star for the line. I think you're constipated in your soul. I think you might have a really big load of grumpy, petrified poop up your soul's ass. Because that was just bizarre, but made me laugh, like properly giggle. Yeah, so I think you're constipated in your soul gets the half star for me. So 2.5 total.
I just really hope you start using that in real life.
Yeah.
Cool. Todd?
2 stars.
That was 1.5 from me. And that's not one that I'm going to change.
No, just one bit of trivia, sorry, that I missed out on, that Tom Cruise is credited with special thanks in regards to the film. Because apparently he was interested originally and had a meeting with Rian Johnson. He changed a bit of the script here and there. God knows what he did. Like, I don't know if he made it better or worse. But, it does say, however, and I love Tom Cruise, so that's not a criticism of him, but however, due to scheduling conflicts as well as other factors, Cruise gets consideration for one of the lead roles. Maybe one of the other factors is that the film was shite, but apart from that, I just love it. Due to scheduling conflicts, as well as other factors. Well, I wonder what they could be. Tom Cruise could never be a serious under serious consideration for one of the other lead roles. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on. Todd, next film.
Okay, so our third film is Looper. In the year 2044, loopers are assassins employed to kill people who are sent back in time. A looper named Joe has his life turned upside down when his contract is himself from 30 years in the future.
Ooh. Collie, first thoughts?
I love this film. Seen it in the cinema. Loved it ever since. This was my first Rian Johnson film. I seen Brick only a couple of years ago. Like I said, never seen Brothers Bloom. So this is my first one, and I love this film. It's so good. This was one of the ones when Todd chose Rian Johnson that I was absolutely buzzing to rewatch, because the last three that we'll talk about, I've watched them semi regularly since their release. Looper I've probably not watched for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same for me. I really love this film. I think, did we go see it in the cinema, Collie? I can't remember, because I remember
Quite possibly.
I remember seeing it in the cinema, but I couldn't remember who I'd have gone with.
I would have had my Cineworld card in at this point, so I was going to most releases, and we went quite regularly together. So yeah.
Yeah. And I remember loving it then, and this is my first time watching it since then, so since like release. Yeah, I loved it again. I thought it was phenomenal. Like, such a good film. Todd?
Yeah, a one that I don't watch as regularly as I should. But it's one that, like, I own it. I don't think I saw it at the cinema. I don't think I did, but gutted I didn't. I know. I'm not part of that club. But yeah, it was. It's for me, it's one of the best sort of. It's one of my favorite modern sci-fi films. Like, I just think it's so tight. It's so well thought out. The world is realized in a way that where there's certain things that are futuristic and certain things that aren't, because that's the way the world develops. It's not like, in 30 years time, or 20 years time, the world's going to be completely different. And the performances are excellent. Yeah, love it.
Good stuff. Right, well, as we always start off with sort of cast, obviously again we've got JGL as the main boy.
Does he go by
Joe.
that, by the way, or are you just calling him it?
No, he does. You call him JGL. I could call him Mr. Gordon Levitt if you like.
No, I don't know. I just never heard that before. That's all.
Yeah, like, if you're listening and watching, let us know if you've heard JGL before. He definitely goes by that. Anyway, JGL as the main or younger Joe. Thoughts on his performance, Collie?
I thought he was excellent. I remember back when it came out, and there was a lot of discourse about the prosthetics and the CGI. I remember at the time I wasn't like off with it, but like it's a weird choice. I thought, was it necessarily? I still kind of feel like that, but it wasn't as bad as I remembered it being. I didn't think it was too distracting. And it wasn't just that he had this prosthetics and stuff, but he was trying to perfect the mannerisms of Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis even credited him with that, like, during the filming and subsequently in the press tour, like afterwards, saying that he was so successful that Bruce Willis could see where he'd put in the work to kind of copy bits and pieces that he did. I thought he was class. I thought he was really, really good. Kind of a step up from Brick of obviously carrying a film. Like, he's the lead in this, and this was a much bigger budget, bigger film. And I thought he did really, really well.
Todd?
Yeah, I believed him. I think it helped that, like, obviously it's post Inception, post Dark Knight Rises, isn't it? So you kind of, you can see him as that legitimate star, I suppose, but as well as like the action star, it works really well. And I don't think he needs to be like big and imposing, because he does that, like you say, with his mannerisms. As far as I can remember, I think the prosthetics like took me out of it a bit, like maybe the first time I watched it, but the more you watch it, I think, and the more you sort of see them two together, especially, and I know we'll get to specific scenes, but in that diner scene where it's flashing between their faces, like it's those quick, like almost match cuts, and then like you see like the bridge at the top of his nose and how he moves that. I think he did a really good job, and I think he's got good chemistry with everybody that he interacts with, whether that's negatively, positively. Yeah, really believe the relationships. Just he nailed it, and like he was at the height of his career, like I say, like just coming off the back of 2 Nolan films and into this. So yeah, really solid.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I think you're right. The obviously being the lead of this film and being lead of Brick, it's completely different sort of like like expectations, but I think he totally smashed them, and as you say, it's a believable performance. There's layers to it. He's not just in what is an action sci-fi kind of film. There's more to it than just laser beams and which a lot of sci-fis could easily sort of devolve into. So yeah, I thought he was fantastic. He also plays a young version of Bruce Willis. We've touched on Collie how Joseph Gordon-Levitt was able to kind of portray a bit more of like Bruce Willis's sort of mannerisms and things. But what do you think of when Bruce, aka Old Joe, turns up?
I thought he was class. I mean, I love Bruce Willis. I loved pretty much everything he's ever been in. And this when he was playing like the not grumpy old guy that he would normally play, but just this wise old guy who's trying to do what he needed to do. One of the standouts acting wise, because Bruce Willis doesn't tend to play with a lot of emotion apart from being grumpy, really. And after he kills the first kid, and he's like, oh, I don't know what the concrete pillar is, if it's like the overpass or whatever, but he's leaning against that and he's like visibly upset and stuff. I thought that was really good. Even just his hesitation in the back garden just before he kills that kid, I thought he delivered that very well. I did burst out laughing on rewatches this time of when you first see him talking about how he's in Shanghai and stuff, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like growing out his hair a little bit, and then it cuts to Old Joe, and he's just got this massive like bald bit and this massive coat. I was like, surely not. Surely you would just shave that off at that point. That made me laugh. So that's more of a Rian Johnson choice than anything else, I think, maybe. But it just that made me burst out laughing. But that's nothing on Bruce Willis. I thought he was great. He was kind of like Terminator-esque, and just like he was just moving forward and moving forward with his goal. Even he was very reticent to do it, but he was just, I'm saving my wife in the future. I'm saving my wife in the future. So I thought his delivery was very like justified, and even like you empathize with him quite a lot until he starts killing the kids. That's when it's like he becomes the baddie, though, like because young Joe, we'll call him young Joe, is like the protagonist of the film. Old Joe's like the protagonist for a wee while, and then it's not until then that it's actually the antagonist of like the last, not even third, but the last little bit of the film is Old Joe. So that turn was quite subtle and well delivered, I thought.
Yep, absolutely. Todd, Brucey Will.
Yeah.
Stop giving people weird nicknames.
Brucey Will. That's like too big. Yeah, I again, believable is the word I would use. He had that emotional depth that I really enjoyed. Again, love the connection that he has to young Joe that young Joe doesn't have to him. Like that really comes out in his performance. That obviously in the dialogue where he's like, "It happens to you. It doesn't have to happen to me." And Bruce Willis is sat there like, "It will happen to you. It has to happen. This is how our life is," type thing. I believed it. And like you say, Bruce Willis does play a similar sort of role in a lot of films. And we know he's got depth. I mean, if you watch Death Becomes Her and stuff, where he's got that like the sort of comedy chops, and he's got the emotional side of things. I felt like he had a lot of his character from Sin City, like, and obviously you've got like that sort of thriller. I know we've mentioned it already, but that thriller noir feel to it at times. Yeah, I thought he was excellent. And again, not just. This could be a role, especially when Josh Gordon, JGL, is the protagonist. It could have been a role that he could have slept through a little bit very easily, and he didn't. And I imagine that's down to him and down to Johnson as a combination again.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. I think Bruce Willis, you can definitely tell like he's been affected by what's gone on in the past to him, and he's kind of not jaded from it, but kind of like emotionally kind of crippled by it. Like he doesn't use much emotions because they're being almost like sanitized by the fact that he's lost all his everything he had and stuff. And definitely interactions between the two of them, especially at the diner thing, like when they first sort of like comes to, I think it's great seeing just the two of them across the table from each other and having those discussions like you said, Collie, with the it hasn't, it doesn't have to happen to me, but it will happen to you kind of thing. I thought that was really good sort of discussions, absolutely. And yeah, Bruce Willis and JGL, Brucey Will and JGL, I thought were fantastic. playing off each other. So there's a couple of obviously other actors that sort of like pop up and do some bits. We also have Emily Blunt as the mother of Sid. Paul Dano as well, popping his head in as the. I totally forgot that he was in it. To be fair, Noah Segan as well, but as Kid Blue, giving us something a bit different. Jeff Daniels from the future, Garrett Dillahunt as another sort of Looper guy. But was there anyone that stood out for yourself there, Todd? We'll go to yourself first.
Yeah, so I wrote on my notes with apologies to Paul Dano, just because like I think this was the first film I saw him in. I didn't see him in Little Miss Sunshine was quite a recent watch in comparison to this. So like this was the earliest role, and it was before his big sort of, prisoners and all that kind of thing. But he's just excellent. like he plays the role well. He's got that sort of slime about him with that telekinesis, and how he's going to pick up women with it. I thought, like I say, it was an early performance in terms of his career, but I thought he was solid with it, and I loved Emily Blunt. The accent worked really well, and sounded good. Like especially for how British her real accent is. And I loved having her as like, she's obviously vulnerable because of, she hides in that safe. She's got a safe ready in case that kid explodes and, uses those powers. But she's still strong. Like she's still got that strength about her. So yeah, I thought she was excellent as well.
Colin?
Yeah, so I forgot that she was in this. So I wrote, "Oh my god, I forgot Emily Blunt is in this." So yeah, it was great to see her appear. Because I was watching, I was like, "Who's the kid's mum again?" I'm sure it's somebody of note because I didn't look up the cast list when I first wanted to rewatch it or that. And then I just had a few notes about some of her scenes. When she's chopping up this is more of a Joseph Gordon-Levitt delivery kind of thing. But when she's chopping the wood, the kind of stump in the field, he just comes away. He's like, "I made a thing," and he just presents these two wee frogs. That just made me burst out laughing. Then what is it, 8 times 3 or whatever, and the kid's like 32. I just found that scene really funny. He just kept going 32, and then he was like, she's like, count it out, and he's like 8, 16, 32. She's just raging about it. So that was good. And then I was like, Sarah uses the frog for a booty call as well. She presses that down and then just humps JGL, as we'll call him now.
Thank you.
So I thought she was good. She really just strong performance. But first actual note of the whole film is Paul Dano just plays a sniveling, begging dude so well. He's just perfect at playing that. He does it obviously 12 Years a Slave. This There Will Be Blood. He does it he just does it so well. Yeah, Jeff Daniels, cooler than cool. Just a real great performance from him as that Abe, the kind of leader guy. And Noah Segan, just brilliant as Kid Blue. Rian Johnson's MVP. And one note about that I got from the trivia is that according to Rian Johnson, he took several classes to learn how to spin his gun around his finger. He filmed numerous takes of Sagan spinning the 4-pound gun, but ended up using the one where he nearly dropped it because he thought it was funny. So he's like, "Oh, you go and learn all this stuff," and then when you drop it, he's like, "I'm going to use that one." So yeah, I thought top to bottom the performance was really good. Even like Sid, I thought the kid was quite good. Mm-hmm. A little trivia note more about just the filmmaking rather than any performance is that, do you know how they in the future the Raymakers guys have got the long black coats, the wide brimmed hats? Apparently there's a poster and an action figure in Sid's room that shows that, so that's kind of a foreshadowing of his choice of that. One bit I also laughed at is when Jesse Garrett Dillahunt's in the house and Sid's doing the little finger guns to him to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt shaking his head. I did find that funny. And then I went, Sid tripped over, so Jesse gets exploded. GG's. And see, from special effects, I know we'll get onto that kind of stuff. That's an amazing scene. How it shows him slowly falling over and everything's coming up, including Jesse. And then the blood just starts coming out his chest. Yeah. And then it's all in slow motion. And then just as Emily Blunt gets Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the door, it just goes normal speed, and it's just this massive explosion. I thought that was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Garrett Dillahunt for me was obviously we spoke about other people that kind of showed up and stuff, but I thought he was great when he came in as it felt almost what was it Christoph Waltz, like in Inglourious Basterds, where he kind of knows that they're hiding someone, but is like not saying it straight out. I thought it was a really interesting performance from him there, in relatively little screen time, but I thought he was definitely a menacing kind of figure. There was a couple of like some of the effects were amazing, but there was a couple of times where I was a bit like, that looks. There was like when he was on like the motorbike going past like the cornrows in the background, that you could tell like it's complete green screen. It didn't like it was. I mean, it was not a massive part of it, but it was just a little couple of bits and pieces where I was like, yeah, that doesn't look too great. And there was, I don't know where this is, but I wrote down weird CGI kid hand. I don't remember. I don't necessarily remember that, but
No.
yeah.
Get in touch if you watch Looper and you see the
I
dodgy
might have to
CGI kid hand.
rewatch it and just watch the weird CGI kid hand. But yeah, other than that, I thought some of the effects were really, really good. Talking about obviously the characters and the story and stuff as well, the choice from JGL at the end then to self-sacrifice to obviously save Billings, I thought that was a great bit of writing, and it made complete sense as well. And from a story standpoint, for me, like, it was the only option. If like Brucey Will was so determined to carry out what he was wanting to do, that JGL then had to do what he did to do that. I thought it was a really good piece of writing. But yeah,
Sorry, just while we're talking about
Yeah, go
that,
for it.
like, I love how like unceremonious is the word I'd use. Like, there's no sort of like Bruce Willis doesn't like melt or like, do you know what I mean? There's no like big line. He's just gone. Like, and it's like, this is now how the world is. Like, that's how we move forward. And I thought, like you say, in terms of writing, which is in terms of the way that we didn't have to go through this big like, oh, now let's watch a montage of this kid grow up. We just know what's going to happen. We know how the future. We know what the future holds because of what's happened. And I thought that was really effective.
Yeah, I did a bit of looking up on Reddit, Massey. I was on Reddit. You know.
What?
What?
Join us.
And when you get past all the losers and the idiots and stuff like that, you get to some good posts. And some guy did this about the 3 scenarios of Looper. So scenario 1 is Sid kills his own mum because he hates her. He hates everyone and becomes the Rainmaker. As the Rainmaker, he kills Willis's wife. B is Sin learns to love his mum. Bruce Willis kills her. He hates everyone and becomes the Rainmaker. He still kills somebody's wife. And then C, which is I think what the film ends with, which is learns to love his mum. Joe kills himself. His mother finds a truck full of gold, which means she and Sid can live a peaceful, comfortable life together. Sid grows up to be a chill dude and uses telekinetic powers for good. Hopefully, he doesn't kill anyone's wife ever. So, yeah. So I thought that was good, and I even like was reading theories on like because it's all weird and time travel esque and stuff. Mm-hmm. When Joe and Sarah sleep together, they're like, oh, does that mean that Joe's like Sid's dad, but it's a weird time thing, or is Joe Sid and stuff? And I was like, I don't think it's as complicated as that. Mm-hmm. But there was some theories about how like Joe and Sarah had been together previously because of how like rapid she just like jumps on him kind of thing. And with the whole drop-in drug kind of thing. What?
Jumps on it.
She does. She literally opens the door after the frog, and there we go. Do you know how they're doing like the drop drugs and stuff like that? There's theories that they were like once vagrants at some point, and then like they just don't remember each other and stuff like that. So some interesting theories that I don't really buy, but yeah, excellent movie.
But I do think that part of what makes this movie great is that like you can have those different theories and like any of them can kind of make sense as well, because like I think it does time travel really well in that it tells you about like what it could or what it is, but then doesn't show you the parts that have been in between that can then be filled by different ways that it could be and stuff. I think that's quite interesting. What?
I'm just trying to decipher what the fuck you just said.
Well, if you rewind it and then go in like a different timeline and hear that,
yeah,
then
I'll watch it in
2034. Yeah. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about with Looper?
All good.
I think we can rate it then. Todd, take it away.
I went straight 5 stars.
No, you didn't.
Sorry.
You went 4.5.
I went straight 4.5. Yes, I did.
Why are you lying?
What-
Like,
what,
why are you
your
just going,
first?
I went straight 5 stars. You literally did not, Todd. Because I note it down when I'm taking my notes. I'm like, I take down what everyone's star ratings are just as I'm going through my notes. So I had Todd 5 stars, and then when you rewatched it yesterday, he changed it to 5.
I went straight in with 5 stars this
Barefaced
morning.
Colin?
Colin, keep me in.
4.5
honest
for
again.
me. And the reason I remember that so distinctly is when I gave it 4.5 yesterday, I was thinking, oh, that could easily be a 5-star for me in a watch or two. And then when you changed yours to 5, I was like, yeah, probably next watch post this discussion, it could be a 5 for me. But as it stands, it's a 4.5 for me,
4.5.
Todd.
Well, as it stands, a 5 for me. There we go. Edit that bit. Just put that bit at the beginning.
Yeah, I went 4.5 as well. I'm the same as you, Collie. I think having watched it a couple of times and then having this discussion on next watch is probably going to be a 5-star, but at this moment in time, yeah, 4.5. But a very high 4.5 for me. Right. We're halfway through, aren't we? We've done.
How was that for time, Master of Ceremonies?
We are just after an hour, so.
Sound. That means we could do 2 on the next part. So sound.
We can do what?
2 hours on the next part.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought about 2 films. I was like, no, I won't talk about all of them. Yeah, so yeah, that is the first part of Rian Johnson done. We're going to go into part 2 very shortly. Obviously, it will be a completely different day. It will not be on the same day. We'll be doing it different. And if you're watching this on the Tuesday that we release it, or listen on Tuesday, on Thursday, you will have part 2, where we talk about the rest of Rian Johnson's films, but I'll let Todd discuss them when we get to them. But guys, thanks so much for listening, watching part 1. If you like what you saw, please like if you're on YouTube, subscribe. It just takes 2 seconds. Comment on what you thought about these films. And if you're watching on Spotify, of course, remember to give us a 5-star rating, because we are, did we say we're the top 5% of podcasts now, I think? Or probably even more than that, eh? Because so many podcasts finish after like a certain amount of episodes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Not in terms of quality or anything like that, but in terms of
yeah.
longevity,
No,
then sure.
we're top 0.001% in terms of quality. So, but guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Bye bye.